Hi, my name is Peggy Haleve and I am a great appreciator. I've been a great appreciator for a lot of my life, and I found that it's very helpful, and especially now that I'm a senior and I'm actually seeing the results of having been a great appreciator. And I think that when we appreciate ourselves, which is an important part of appreciations, and learning how to appreciate self is just a very important part of life and well-being. Um, I think that there's this other aspect that comes up in what we've been taught, and that is when we're taught about humility. It's an interesting thing for me because it often gets placed into a good virtue. And I don't know if I feel that way about it. I think I feel a little differently about it. I don't think it's a good virtue. I think it's a virtue, but I think it's a slight virtue. It's not a big, important virtue unless you're so braggadocious. We know people in the political realm, for example, that they could be a little more humble or a lot more humble. But I think that for general people who are living the good life and staying healthy, we know how to balance things, and we know that it's important to check ourselves out, not be too humble. But I do think that humility is something that maybe we cowered into because it's easier sometimes to be just a little bit more filled with humility than to step up and to be heard and to say our expressions, even if they're not on the opposite end of humility, but even just going to the center of that and being what I would consider somewhat brave to get out here, like I'm doing right now, get out here and discuss with people and communicate my thoughts on this what I'm considering a relearning about humility. And it's not such in my opinion, like I said, it's not such a good virtue. So if you're using humility as an excuse to not express, I think it's time you rethink that, because loving oneself while suppressing its resulting products is a conflicting aspect of appreciating what humility is all about. Being kind to oneself and emphasizing what is quite the opposite of humility will yield personal strength, and that's a good thing. It'll bring confidence. It often affords opportunities when you're out there expressing yourself. Opportunities come your way. It creates good health and self-appreciation, which is good. And it also does offer us, and it's very evidenced, that people who feel healthy about themselves generally live longer. So there's a lot of that thought in there. And plus, it's very joyful to share, and it's important to do that. And wisdom is such a great thing to have obtained. So I think that, when we are caring about ourselves in good ways, we are also loving ourselves and bringing ourselves to well-being. So then what is this humility? I mean, I really actually think that it is our feeling our greatness is a far more powerful and healthy feeling than it is to experience that pity side of humility. Because humility can actually downsize our self-worth with this false sensation of social flattery, or this false impression of public admiration because we're humble human beings. I think it's definitely more inclined, humility, to be self-suppressive. And I think it's dangerous. And it's often self-debilitating. It is good to trust yourself to witness the amazing person you naturally are, and to become all that you can be. And I think that humility kind of, you might want to be a humble person, but I think that you need to balance humility with this opportunity. And actually, I feel that being wise does bring with it, and it yields to itself, a responsibility. It's a responsibility to express oneself. So I think that humility is something that we need to consider it as less of a good virtue. It's a virtue, yes, and it harmonizes well when you do things the right way. But we do not have to hide ourselves behind this veil of properly holding humility of self in place, because you're usually doing it for others and not for yourself anyway. And we lower our vibrations on purpose when we become this cowarded person in humility's state. Humility is something that often others want us to do so that they don't have to rise up to the level of goodness that we're in. Sometimes I think that when we have obtained our goals and we've done so well in our lives, that we as seniors can kind of fall back into a place of quiet reserve, when actually this is the time for us to speak up and kind of learn more and to teach more and to share more. So, but I do think that humility, on the other hand, or on the other side of things, can help us keep a balance so that we can stand quietly independent of comparison between ourselves and our other self, our ego and our love. So I think that there is a place for it, but it is not a big, good virtue. It's a virtue. It's a much bigger virtue to share and to love and to care and to love yourself and to know thyself. And in knowing thyself and placing yourself in this better environment, you don't have to brag about how great it is, but it's great. And it's so healing and it's so healthy to feel good about ourselves. And that indeed is a courageous virtue. So I think that when you look at humility, think again and think about being more courageous, which I think is a virtue also. Carry your courage and leave your humility back when you really needed to have it there. Perhaps when you were young, very young, in your young 20s and filled with yourself. But we've all learned as we've grown wiser and older and more experienced that we can balance things without utilizing humility as a shield to hide behind. So I encourage you, think about it and look within and know thyself and know your greatness, that you are loved. Thank you.